The valley was still half drowned, water pooled in every hollow as if the storm had tried to erase the village altogether. Armin and Zara watched the world shrink beneath them as the helicopter rose, but only Zara understood just how symbolic this moment truly was. She sat opposite him, her injured ankle propped gently, her fingers wound tightly around the shawl Armin's mother had given her. She held it like it was something precious, something tender she wasn't used to owning. Armin stared out the window, speechless, overwhelmed, exhilarated, and terrified all at once. The drone of the helicopter was loud, yet somehow Zara's gaze cut through the noise. "You're quiet," she said gently. "I've never flown before." She smiled, small and sincere. "I guessed." He swallowed, eyes drifting back to the shrinking rooftops. "It feels like I'm leaving everything behind." "You're not," Zara replied softly. "You're carrying it with you. That's what people like you do. People like him." No one had ever said words like that to Armin before. Not with admiration, not with meaning. For several minutes they sat in silence, the kind that doesn't strain but settles. Zara's guards pretended not to notice the subtle bond forming between them, though their eyes flickered with curiosity. When the clouds parted, the city appeared, vast, glittering, alive. Towers rose like silver spears, roads webbed across districts, and screens flashed with advertisements taller than buildings in Armin's village. The contrast stole his breath. "That will be your new home," Zara told him. "If you choose to make it so." He glanced at her. "And if I fail, then we adjust," she said. "You learn. You grow. Failure isn't the end where I come from, it's the middle." He didn't know if she realized how unusual those words were coming from someone of her power. But she meant them, and in that moment, he realized she wasn't offering charity, she was offering belief. As the helicopter descended toward the rooftop helipad of a gleaming glass tower, Zara watched Armin's expression closely. She remembered the moment he had dragged her from the river, shaking, breathless, refusing to let go even while the current tried tearing them apart. She had been saved by many people in her life, bodyguards, employees, advisors, but none had ever risked their life for her without thinking of reward. This boy from a forgotten village had shown her something she had forgotten existed. And she intended to return that gift with an opportunity that might just rewrite his future. Security officers guided Armin through the building as though he were some honored guest instead of a boy who still smelled faintly of river water and smoke. He kept glancing around, unsure where to look first. The walls were glass, the floors polished, the ceilings impossibly high. People in suits walked briskly past, tapping on tablets or murmuring into earpieces. Zara walked beside him, cane tapping softly. "These people will soon know your name," she said. "But I want you to remember something." He turned to her. "No one here is above you. Not even me." Armin nearly laughed in disbelief. "You're the CEO. You own the whole building." "I lead the company," she corrected gently. "But owning and being above are not the same." Her voice carried a kind of exhaustion that hinted she had spent years clawing her way through a world that demanded perfection. She led him into a large office where a panoramic window revealed the city below like a living map. A long table, a shelf of awards, a glowing display of screens, everything about the room whispered power. Yet it also carried a warmth, faint but present, that wasn't visible in the lobby. "This is where I make decisions," she said. "Most days it feels like I'm wrestling storms, one's far worse than the one that nearly drowned us." Armin walked slowly to the window, jaw loose as he stared at the city. "It's so big," he murmured. "It is, and it can be overwhelming. But you'll grow into it. I can see that already." "Why?" he asked suddenly. "Why choose me? You don't know me." Zara stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Armin, you saved my life without knowing who I was. No guards, no hesitation, no fear. I've met thousands of people, politicians, investors, world leaders. But I've met very few who act with instinctive goodness." He didn't know how to respond to that. He wasn't used to compliments. Praise felt heavy, like a responsibility. Zara walked around her desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a card. "Report here tomorrow morning. Your training begins at 8. They'll help you get settled in a guest residence for now." Armin stared at the card, white, crisp, branded with the Malik Global emblem he'd seen only on billboards. He had no idea how to navigate this new world, but he also knew opportunities like this didn't come twice. And Zara was watching him with a mix of hope and something softer, something that made his heart flutter in confusion. "Thank you," he said finally. "You earned it," she replied. The guest residence was nothing like Armin's home. The moment he stepped into the apartment, he felt as though he'd walked into a dream built for someone else. Soft lights, clean lines, a bed wider than he was tall, a kitchen filled with metal boxes he couldn't name. He touched everything cautiously, as if afraid it might break under his calloused hands. A staff member showed him around, explaining every device, every switch, every convenience. Armin nodded politely, pretending to understand more than he did. But when the door closed and he was alone, silence settled over him like a heavy blanket. He sank onto the bed, gripping the edge. "What am I doing here?" he whispered. He missed the creak of the wooden door back home, the smell of firewood, the familiarity of dirt roads and open fields. Here, everything felt too perfect, too smooth, too silent. But then he remembered something: Zara's face. The way she had looked at him when she made the offer. As if she weren't offering charity but a chance. As if she believed in him more than he believed in himself. He closed his eyes and took a long, shaky breath. "I can do this," he murmured. "For Amma, for myself." He stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the endless lights of the city. Each one felt like a spark waiting for someone to claim it. Tomorrow, his training would begin. And for the first time in his life, the path ahead wasn't determined by fate or poverty or circumstance. It was wide open. The storm had taken much, but it had also delivered him to a new beginning. Zara didn't return home immediately. After escorting Armin to the residence, she rode the elevator up to her private penthouse, the one place where she allowed herself to feel human instead of invincible. The storm had rattled her more than she showed. As soon as the elevator doors closed behind her, she pressed a hand to her chest, releasing a shaky breath. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirrored wall, hair slightly tangled, eyes tired, shawl still wrapped around her shoulders. She touched the fabric gently. It held the smell of smoke from Armin's home, of earth, of safety. A reminder of who had saved her without hesitation. When she stepped into her penthouse, everything felt too large, too cold. The high ceilings, the designer furniture, the silence, it all seemed emptier than usual. She dropped the cane, removed her shoes, and sat on the couch, leaning back as exhaustion washed over her. For the first time in years, she didn't think about quarterly reports, board politics, or investor meetings. She thought of a boy jumping into a violent river because a stranger needed help. She thought of mud on his clothes, fear in his eyes, and the strength in his hands as he pulled her back from death. She closed her eyes. "Armin," she whispered, tasting the name like a grounding truth. Somewhere deep inside her, something unfamiliar stirred. Not romance. Something simpler, more profound. Trust. Safety. A strange sense of alignment she hadn't felt with anyone in years. She knew the coming weeks would be difficult for him. The city could be merciless. Her world even more so. But she also knew something else. Armin wasn't just stepping into her world. He was about to change it. And she was ready for whatever happened next.